The story you're about to hear is wonderful. If you enjoy it, please subscribe to the channel and comment with the location you're watching from. Thank you for listening. The scream cut through the silence of the hallway like a blade. Elena Garcia dropped the cleaning cloth, her heart pounding. It was a child crying. The sound was coming from Leo's room. Then she heard another voice, low and furious. "Stop being such a crybaby." She ran. Her bare feet made almost no sound on the cold marble floor. She threw the door open without knocking. The scene inside stole her breath. Susan Miller was holding Leo by the arm, her fingers digging into the 5-year-old's thin skin like claws. Leo was trying to pull away, his little face red from crying. "You're a spoiled brat," Susan snarled. Then she raised her free hand. The movement was fast, violent. The pinch tore a scream of pain from the boy. The mark turned red instantly. "Let go of him, now." Elena's voice came out firmer than she felt. Susan whipped around like a snake ready to strike. "You're not in charge of anything here. Get out of this room. I'm not leaving. Let him go." Time seemed to stand still. Elena crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled Leo behind her. She put her own body between the boy and that woman, a human shield. Leo clung to her leg, his whole body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Susan grabbed her purse, her eyes flashing with hatred. "You're going to regret this. When his father gets home, he'll fire you. Let him. But you are not touching him again." The door slammed with so much force that the pictures on the wall rattled. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Elena took a deep breath, smelling the fear in the room, and looked down. Leo was still clinging to her, his face wet with tears, his huge eyes filled with terror. "Hey, she's gone now, okay?" She knelt slowly. She saw the marks from Susan's fingers on his little arm, red and swollen. When she pushed up the sleeve of his shirt, her stomach turned. Purple bruises, some old and already yellowing at the edges. His whole arm was covered in them. This wasn't the first time. A wave of hot anger rose in Elena's chest, but she forced it down. She had to stay calm. For him. "Leo, does Susan do this often?" The boy nodded, the movement small, ashamed. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" His voice was so quiet she could barely hear it. "She said I'm not allowed to tell." "Why not?" "Because then Mommy will go away forever." Elena's chest tightened as if a knife had been plunged into it. That woman had threatened a 5-year-old child. She had used his deepest fear as a weapon. "Leo, that's a lie. Your mom isn't going anywhere. But this stops now, okay? You don't have to be afraid of her anymore." With trembling hands, she took out her phone. She started taking pictures of every mark, every bruise. The flash illuminated the wounded skin. "Is that going to hurt?" "No, sweetie. I just need to save this as proof." When she finished, she called Grant Thompson, her boss. The call went to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail again. Then she sent a text, her fingers flying across the screen. "Mr. Thompson, it's urgent. It's about Leo. Please come home." He saw it. 1 second, 2, 3, no reply. Her heart sank. What if he didn't believe her? What if he thought she was making it up? Then, with fingers cold from nerves, she sent the photos, one by one, every mark, every piece of proof. 3 seconds later, her phone rang. Grant's voice was desperate, torn. "What happened to my son?" Grant Thompson, 33, had built one of New York's biggest real estate development firms from scratch. But none of that mattered when it came to his son. He was in a meeting with Japanese investors, presenting the most important project of his career, when he saw the photos on his phone. Everything else vanished. The boardroom, the millions of dollars at stake. The men in suits waiting for his answer. All that existed were those marks on his son's skin. He walked out of the room without an explanation, without an apology, without a backward glance. He got in his car and floored it. He ran 2 yellow lights, maybe they were red. His heart was beating so hard it hurt. How had he not seen it? Leo had been crying at night. He'd started wetting the bed again after a year of being dry. He flinched whenever Susan came near. Grant had thought it was trauma from the divorce. He never imagined someone was hurting his son. And worse, the person he had trusted to care for him. The person Victoria had chosen. His ex-wife had insisted on choosing the nanny. She had used it as a bargaining chip in the custody negotiation. Grant had thought it was reasonable. He thought she just wanted to make sure their son was well cared for. Now he saw how foolish he'd been. How blind. He called Elena, his voice rougher than he intended. "I'm almost there." "Where's Susan?" She left. "Leo's with me. He's scared, but he's okay." "Thank you." His voice broke. "Thank you for noticing." 20 minutes later, he burst through the front door like a hurricane. Elena Garcia, 26, had grown up in the Bronx. She knew the smell of violence. Her father used to beat her mother until her mom finally found the courage to leave when Elena was 14. After that, Elena was the one who held everything together. She worked from a young age to support her mother and younger sister. She learned early on how to read people, to see the signs others ignored. The first day she worked in the Thompson mansion, she noticed something was off with Leo. The way the boy tensed up when Susan came near, how he became too quiet, with that heavy silence of someone keeping painful secrets. Elena had seen those signs before, in the mirror when she was a child. But it was hard to be sure without proof, and she needed this job. Her mother, Maria, was being treated for diabetes. The medicine was expensive. Her sister, Lena, was a senior in high school, dreaming of college. Grant Thompson paid 3 times what her other jobs did. It was a job she couldn't afford to lose. But when she opened that door and saw Susan hurting Leo, there was no doubt. The job didn't matter. Nothing mattered. That child needed help, and she wasn't going to be like the neighbor who closed the blinds and pretended not to see. Never again. Leo was on the floor in his room, still clinging to her as if he'd drown if he let go. "Hey, look at me." Elena stroked his hair gently. "She's gone now, okay?" Leo looked up with those huge brown eyes drenched in tears. "She's going to tell my dad I was bad." "You weren't bad. She's the one who's wrong. But she said if I tell, my mom will go away forever." "That's a lie, sweetie. Your mom isn't going anywhere." "She lied to make you keep quiet. But I'm here now, all right? Nobody is going to hurt you anymore." Leo hesitated. His fingers tightened on her shirt. "Are you going to leave?" "Even if my dad tells you to." Elena felt a lump in her throat. "Even if your dad fires me, I don't regret it. Because you're safe now. And that's what matters." Leo hugged her tightly, and she felt his small body trembling against hers. She closed her eyes, thinking of her mother waiting for her medicine, of Lena wanting to go to college. If she lost this job, she wouldn't find another one this good. But she looked at the marks on Leo's arm and knew she had made the right choice. Some things are more important than money. Some things you can't pretend you didn't see. When Grant came through the door, the sound of his footsteps echoed through the house. "Leo, where's my son?" Elena appeared at the top of the stairs, holding Leo in her arms. The boy had his face hidden in her neck. Grant took the stairs 2 at a time. "Leo." The boy looked at his father with those red-rimmed eyes, and then something happened that shattered Grant. Leo hesitated. It was like a knife to the heart. His son was afraid. "Vim? Son, come to Daddy." Leo looked at Elena. She nodded, encouraging him. Only then did he go into his father's arms. Grant hugged him as if he were holding the most precious thing in the world, because he was. "It's okay now. Daddy's here. No one is ever going to hurt you again." Leo started to cry. Not from fear, from relief. In Leo's room, Grant sat on the bed with his son in his lap. Elena stood in the doorway, ready to leave if she was needed. "Stay, please," Grant asked. His voice was broken. She came in. "Leo, Daddy needs to see where it hurts, okay?" The boy nodded, the movement slow, ashamed. "Show Daddy." Leo lifted his sleeve. The marks from Susan's fingers were there, red like burns. "Is there more?" Another nod. Grant lifted the other sleeve. More bruises, some purple, some yellowish. He lifted the boy's shirt. There were marks on his ribs, small and round, pinches. Grant squeezed his eyes shut, trying not to cry in front of his son. A tear escaped anyway. "How long, son?" "Since Susan came." "How long is that?" 3 months. 3 months. His son had suffered for 90 days in silence, alone, afraid. "Why didn't you tell Daddy?" Leo's voice was a whisper. "She said I couldn't, because then Mommy would go away forever." Grant squeezed his eyes shut, his throat tight. "Leo, you can tell Daddy anything, always, and Daddy will protect you." "Okay? Okay. And one more thing. Susan is never coming back, ever, Daddy promises." Leo threw himself into his father's arms and cried in a way that broke everyone's heart in the room. After a few minutes, Leo calmed down. He was exhausted. Grant laid him in bed, pulled up the blanket. Will you stay here?
I will.
I'm not leaving your side. Leo closed his eyes. He fell asleep holding his father's hand. Grant sat on the edge of the bed watching his son sleep. Then he got up slowly and walked over to where Elena was standing. You saved my son. I just did what had to be done. No, you could have pretended you didn't see it. A lot of people do. But you didn't. Elena didn't know what to say. Grant continued. Susan, where did she go? I don't know. She grabbed her purse and left. They went to the living room. Grant collapsed onto the sofa, his head in his hands. I didn't see it. How did I not see it? You couldn't have known. She hid it. And she threatened Leo so he wouldn't tell. But I'm his father. I should have noticed. Eleanor took a step forward, her voice firm. Mr. Thompson, these people make children afraid. They know exactly how to manipulate them. It's not your fault. He picked up his phone with shaking hands. I need to call Victoria. She has to know, he dialed. It went to voicemail. Victoria, call me. Now, it's about Leo. He hung up and looked at Elena. His eyes were red. Thank you, truly. You saved my son. I will never forget this. She nodded, her own throat tight. Grant went back to Leo's room, sat in the armchair beside the bed. He stayed there all night, watching his son sleep, promising himself he would never again let anyone hurt that boy. Never again. An hour later, the sound of an engine cut through the silence. It was Victoria's silver BMW. She got out of the car in high heels and sunglasses, her face set in a mask of irritation for having been interrupted. Grant opened the door before she could ring the bell. Couldn't this have waited? I had plans. Get inside. His tone was pure ice. Victoria sensed something in his voice and walked in. Grant led her to the living room and closed the door. Sit. What is going on? He took his phone and put it on the table with the photos open. Each one more brutal than the last. Explain this. Victoria picked up the phone. For a second, she went pale. But she composed herself quickly, lifting her chin. Kids fall, they get hurt. It's normal. Normal? Grant's voice rose. Look closely. Those are finger marks. Pinch marks, assault. Who took these pictures? The door opened. Helena walked in. I did. Victoria looked her up and down, contempt dripping from her face. Oh, of course. The cleaner. Be careful what you say, Grant warned, moving to stand beside Elena. Victoria threw the phone back on the table. You paid her to set this up, to take custody away from me. I didn't pay anyone. She saw Susan hurting our son. The maid saw it. How convenient. Grant stood up, his voice getting louder. I saw the marks. I talked to Leo. He told me everything. Told you what? That Susan has been hitting him for 3 months. That she threatened him. That he was so scared he started wetting the bed again. Victoria was quiet for a second. Susan wouldn't do that. Are you sure? Or did you know and just didn't care? Of course I didn't know. But you chose her. You insisted. You fought for joint custody just so you could choose who took care of him in my house. She's family. I trust her. You trust a woman who hits children? She doesn't hit him. She's strict. She's firm. Grant froze. The blood ran cold in his veins. Strict. You knew she was aggressive. Victoria realized her mistake. That's not what I meant. It was exactly what you meant. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. I saw it, ma'am. I saw her holding Leo so tightly. Her fingers dug into his arm. I saw her pinch him. I heard her screaming that he was spoiled. Victoria let out a sarcastic, bitter laugh. And you have proof? I have the pictures. Leo's word. And I bet Susan has a history. The silence in the room grew heavy. Victoria, Grant moved closer. She has a history. Silence, Victoria. She was fired from 2 jobs for being too firm, and you let her take care of our son. Victoria stood up, clutching her purse to her chest. I didn't know it would be like this. Why would it be any different? Because he needs to learn. He can't be this sensitive, whiny little boy. The shout escaped before Grant could control it. He is 5 years old, Victoria. She took a step back, startled. Grant took a deep breath, his fists clenched as he tried to control his rage. You put a violent woman in charge of our son because you think he's weak. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. And you know what? I have a witness. I have photos. I have Leo's testimony, and I have you admitting you knew she was aggressive. Victoria's hands were trembling as she held her purse. What are you going to do? I'm filing for full custody, and I'm pressing criminal charges against Susan. You can't. I'm already doing it. Victoria looked at Elena with pure hatred. You will regret this. I've heard worse threats, Elena replied, not breaking eye contact. Victoria walked to the door. She stopped. You'll regret this, Grant. I already do. I regret ever marrying you. The door slammed so hard it made the pictures on the wall shake. Grant collapsed onto the sofa, his whole body heavy. I failed him. Elena sat next to him, keeping a respectful distance. You didn't know. She fooled everyone. But you noticed, because I've been through it. Grant looked at her. If I file this lawsuit, she's going to come after you. And I don't know if you'll be able to defend yourself alone. I know I won't. You won't be alone. I'll protect you. I promise. Elena nodded, not trusting her own voice. Grant held out his hand. Thank you for being brave. She shook it. It was a strong hand, firm, warm. She didn't know what was coming. She didn't know if she'd lose her other jobs. But she knew one thing. She had done the right thing. That little boy was safe now, that's what mattered. The next day, Grant woke up early. He hadn't been able to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Leo's tear-streaked face, the purple marks on his little arm. He called his lawyer before he even had coffee. Dr. Sterling, I need a meeting today, it's urgent. What time can you make it? 7 p.m., I'll be at the office. Grant hung up and went to find Elena. She was in the kitchen making coffee, her movements automatic like someone who had barely slept. Good morning. Good morning. Mr. Thompson. He sat at the table, his fingers drumming nervously on the wood. Will you testify? At the custody hearing? Elena felt her stomach clench. She stopped stirring the sugar in her coffee. Testify how? Tell the judge what you saw. In court. She gripped her mug tighter. Mr. Thompson, I need this job. My mother, my sister. I know. But I need your help, and I will protect you. I promise you won't lose anything. Elena bit her lip. She thought of her mother waiting for her expensive medicine. Love Lena, who dreamed of going to college. If she lost this job, she wouldn't find another one this good this quickly. But she also thought of Leo's little face. When I was 8, my father used to hit my mother. Her voice was low. I saw everything. I heard the screams, the noises. Once our neighbor saw it through the window. Our eyes met and she just closed the blinds. It took my mom years to get out of that house. Grant was silent. I always thought, why didn't anyone help? Why did everyone pretend they didn't see? But she looked at him. I'm not going to be the person who closes the blinds. So you'll do it? I'll do it. But you need to understand that I could lose everything. You won't, I guarantee it. He wrote an address on a piece of paper. 7 p.m., my lawyer's office. Go home, change, and meet me there. On the way home, Eleanor wondered if she had walked into a war she couldn't win. Her hands were sweating on the bus railing. When she got home, her mother was in the kitchen. Maria was 58 with graying hair in a bun, hands calloused from a lifetime of work, but eyes that still sparkled with life. What happened, sweetie? You look like you didn't sleep a wink. Elena told her everything, every detail, every word. Maria listened in silence, her expression growing more serious. When Elena finished, her mother hugged her tightly. You did the right thing. But what if I lose my job? What if we can't pay for your medicine? We'll figure it out. We always do. Maria held her daughter's face in her hands. Some things are more important than money, my dear. That little boy needs you. Lena appeared in the doorway. She was 18 with curly hair just like her sister's and smart eyes full of dreams. Elena, you're so brave, seriously. Elena smiled for the first time that day. Now I need to get ready. I have a meeting with the lawyer. Elena arrived at the building at 7 sharp. 15 floors of glass and steel. She had never set foot in a place so fancy. Her reflection in the glass looked out of place, small. Grant was waiting in the lobby. You came. I said I would. They went into the office. Dr. Robert Sterling was in his 50s, with perfectly combed gray hair, an impeccable suit, and designer glasses. The kind of man who charged by the minute. Mr. Thompson, Miss Elena Garcia. A pleasure. Please have a seat. Dr. Sterling picked up an expensive pen and a legal pad. He folded his hands on the mahogany desk. Miss Garcia, could you tell me exactly what happened on March 15th? Elena took a deep breath. I was cleaning the hallway when I heard a child scream. I ran to the room and saw the nanny holding Leo by the arm, holding him tight. Her fingers were digging into his skin. Then she raised her hand and pinched him, hard. His skin turned red instantly. The lawyer wrote everything down, the pen gliding quickly across the paper. And what did you do? I told her to let him go. She got angry, said I wasn't in charge, but I didn't leave. I pulled Leo behind me. Did you take photographs? Yes, I have them all on my phone. Can you send them to me? Eleanor sent the photos. Dr. Sterling opened each one on his computer, analyzing them in silence. His expression grew more and more serious. This is enough to open an investigation. He looked at Grant. Mr. Thompson, we're filing for full custody immediately. How long will it take? With this evidence and a medical report? 2 months tops. 2 months is too long. That's why we'll file for temporary custody. In the meantime, Leo stays only with you. Grant breathed a sigh of relief. And her? He pointed to Eleanor. Does she need protection? Dr. Sterling frowned. Did your ex-wife threaten her? So she said she would regret it. Was he present for that? He was. Anything she does now becomes evidence of retaliation. He looked at Elena. But still, Miss Garcia, be prepared. She might try other things. What if she gets me fired from my other jobs? Grant didn't hesitate. I'll cover all your losses. Every single one. The next day, Grant took Leo to the pediatrician. Elena went with them because Leo asked, his tiny voice pleading, Can Elena come too? Thursday, is it going to hurt? Leo asked in the car, his hands sweaty. No, sweetie. The doctor is just going to take a look. Dr. Evans examined each mark carefully, touching lightly, photographing everything with a professional camera. He asked questions in a calm, gentle voice. Who did this, Leo? The boy looked down. Susan? Did it hurt a lot? Leo nodded, his eyes welling up just from the memory. Afterward, the doctor called Grant into a private room. Eleanor stayed with Leo in the hallway, distracting him with comic books. The injuries were intentional, Dr. Evans said, his voice grave. Forcible restraint and deliberate pinching. There is no doubt. Will he have any permanent scars? Physically? No, the marks will fade in a few weeks. The doctor took off his glasses and rubbed his tired eyes. But psychologically? Yes, he needs therapy, urgently. That same day, Grant made an appointment with Dr. Wallace, a child psychologist specializing in trauma. Leo started the following week. In the first session, he barely spoke, but he drew. A large woman with enormous hands, her fingers like claws. A small child, huddled in the corner of the page, so small he almost disappeared. He's expressing his fear, Dr. Wallace explained to Grant afterward. He's putting out what he can't say in words. It's a good sign. Leo didn't want to go to the sessions alone. He always asked Elena to come along. Will you wait in the waiting room? I will. The whole time. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Elena took the boy. She waited, reading old magazines, drinking bad coffee from the machine, but she was always there when he came out. And when he came out, he would tell her things. Today I talked about Susan, and how was it? It was hard. But the doctor said I was brave. You were very brave. 2 weeks later, Elena arrived at her second job, a house on the Upper East Side. Mrs. Dalton was at the door, her face grim, arms crossed. Elena, we need to talk. Her stomach dropped. Did something happen? I received a phone call. A woman saying that you steal. Elena went pale. That's a lie. It was Victoria, my boss's ex-wife. Look, I can't take the risk. Mrs. Dalton, you've known me for 2 years. It's best if we end it here. I'm sorry. Elena left with her legs feeling like jelly. She sat on the curb, her hands shaking so much she could barely dial. She called Grant, crying. She got me fired. Victoria called her and made up a story that I steal. I'll handle this. The next day, she lost her third job. Same story, same accusation, same lie. In 1 week, Elena had lost 2/3 of her income. She went home devastated, the weight of the world on her shoulders. I lost 2 jobs, Mum. Maria hugged her daughter tightly. We'll figure it out. We always do. But for the first time, Elena wasn't sure they would. Grant called Dr. Sterling immediately. She's destroying Elena's life. This is a crime. It's retaliation. We need to document everything. And in the meantime, Elena has no way to support herself. Hire her full-time on the books. What do you mean? She's losing her jobs because of your lawsuit. You have to guarantee her livelihood. It's fair and it protects her legally. Grant didn't hesitate. I'll do it today. He called Elena. Come over. I need to talk to you. She went thinking she was about to be fired too. She arrived with her heart in her throat, prepared for the worst. Sit down. She sat on the edge of the chair. I want to hire you. Full-time, with a formal contract. A fixed salary. Elena blinked, confused. Mr. Thompson, this is charity. It's not. It's justice. You're paying a price for doing the right thing. And Leo needs you. He trusts you. He showed her the paper. The salary was double what she had been earning before. I accept. But only until the lawsuit is over. Deal. Grant extended his hand. Elena shook it. When their hands touched, something different passed between them. A subtle electric current. Their eyes met for a second too long. They pulled away quickly. Both looked away. Elena now spent her entire day at the mansion. In the morning, she took care of the cleaning. In the afternoon, she was with Leo. And slowly, without realizing it, she was becoming part of that family. One afternoon, she found a box under his bed. Sketchbooks, all scribbled over with force, destroyed, torn. What are you doing? Leo was at the door, his face red with shame. I found these sketchbooks. Are they yours? Leo nodded, looking at the floor. Why did you scribble all over them? His voice was a whisper. Because Susan said they were bad. That drawing is for girls. Elena's heart broke. Leo, your dad draws all day. Blueprints, plans, buildings. Is he less of a man because of it? Leo thought, his brow furrowed. No. Then come here. Let's draw together. They sat on the floor with new paper, colored pencils spread out around them. Leo drew a big yellow sun, with rays that seemed to hug the page. Eleanor drew a house with colorful windows. They laughed. It was the first time Leo had laughed since Susan had left. A real clean, free laugh. Grant was walking down the hall coming home from work. He heard the laughter and stopped. He peeked through the slightly open door. He saw them on the floor drawing. Leo was smiling in a way he hadn't seen in months. Eleanor was laughing too, her hair falling across her face, her eyes shining. Something inside him settled, like a puzzle piece finally finding its place. In the following days, Leo stuck to Elena like glue. He followed her around the house, asked her to read stories, showed her every new drawing. Until one afternoon, Grant overheard him. Dad, my Elena said I can play soccer. Grant stopped. He went to the door. You're Elena? Leo turned red. Elena. Yes, you can play soccer, champ. Leo ran out to the yard. Grant and Elena just stood there looking at each other. There was something in the air, something unsaid. Leo had nightmares every night. He would wake up screaming, sweating, calling for his dad. Grant would go in, hold him until he calmed down, but it was always 2, 3 in the morning. But one Friday, something different happened. Eleanor had stayed late. She read Leo a story before bed, one about a knight who fought dragons not with violence, but with courage and kindness. When Grant's internal alarm clock went off at 3 a.m. out of habit, he shot up in bed. Leo hadn't called. He ran to his son's room, heart racing. Leo was sleeping peacefully, his breathing soft, his face relaxed. A stuffed animal was clutched to his chest. Grant leaned against the wall, letting out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. In the morning, he went down to the kitchen. Eleanor was already there making coffee, the morning sun lighting up her hair. Leo slept through the night. She turned, surprised. Really? The entire night, he didn't wake up once. That's wonderful. I think it was because of you. You stayed late, you read to him. He felt safe. He looked away, flustered. I just did what I had to do. You always say that. Their eyes met. They held the gaze for a moment. The air between them was charged, heavy with unspoken things. It was Elena who looked away first, turning back to the coffee, her hands trembling slightly. 6 weeks later, Grant's phone rang. I have news. The hearing has been scheduled. When? 23 weeks from today. May 28th, 10 a.m. I'm ready. Will Leo have to testify? No, but we'll have the medical and psychological reports, and Elena will testify. She's our key witness. Grant went to find Elena. He found her folding laundry in Leo's room. The hearing's been scheduled 3 weeks from now. Her hands stopped mid-fold. I'll have to speak in front of her. You will. What if I freeze up? What if I forget everything? You won't. You just have to tell the truth. Exactly what you saw. What if it's not enough? Grant came closer, placing his hands on her shoulders. It will be. I promise. 2 weeks before the hearing, Victoria's lawyer called. My client would like to propose a settlement. What kind? She gives up joint custody. She'll only have visitation. And you drop the complaint against Susan. Grant didn't even have to think. No, Mr. Thompson. I want it on the record that she put my son in danger. And Susan needs to answer for what she did. There's no deal. Very well. We'll see you at the hearing. 1 week before, Dr. Sterling called Elena to his office. It was time to rehearse. Let's do a run-through. I'm going to ask the questions the judge will ask. Is that okay? Elena nodded, her mouth dry. Miss Garcia, can you describe what happened on March 15th? Elena took a deep breath. She started to talk about the scream, the door, the pinch. Her voice was shaky. Very good. But speak more slowly and look at the judge when you describe the assault. Eye contact is important. They rehearsed 3 times. Each time, Elena's voice grew firmer, more confident. You're going to do great, Dr. Sterling said at the end. But Elena still felt a knot of fear in her stomach. The Sunday before the hearing, Grant had an idea. Elena, I'd like to meet your mother and sister. She looked surprised. Tug, because they're important to you, and because I want to thank them. You saved my son. Your family deserves to know that. They went on a Sunday afternoon. The apartment was small, simple, but clean and lovingly kept. There were flowers on the windowsill, photos on the walls. Maria opened the door, nervous about hosting her daughter's boss. Please come in. The living room had a patched-up sofa, an old TV, and shelves of family photos. The air smelled of fresh coffee. Mrs. Garcia, I came to thank you. Your daughter saved my son, and I wanted you to know that I will take care of her. She won't want for anything. Maria looked at her daughter, then at him. Her eyes were just like Elena's, brown, deep, honest. You're a good man. I can see it in your eyes. Grant stayed for half an hour. He talked about her diabetes treatment, offered to help. He asked about Lena's dream of becoming a nurse, said he could help with scholarships. When they left, Lena nudged Elena. He looks at you differently, you know. You're crazy. He's my boss. Okay, Lena said with a knowing smile. But later, alone in her room, Elena thought about what her sister had said, and she realized maybe she wasn't so crazy after all. The eve of the hearing, Elena woke up at 5 a.m. She hadn't slept well. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victoria staring at her with contempt. She saw the judge not believing her. She saw everything going wrong. She got up, took a cold shower to wake herself up, and put on the outfit Grant had insisted on buying for her. A simple but elegant suit. Black pants, a white blouse, a navy blue blazer. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. My daughter, you look beautiful. Maria was at the bedroom door, her eyes shining with pride. I'm nervous, Mom, so nervous. You'll do fine. Just tell the truth. And what if no one believes me? Maria hugged her daughter. They'll believe you, because the truth is on your side, and the truth always wins. Grant had also woken up early. He was in the bathroom shaving when he noticed his hand was shaking. He put the razor down, took a deep breath, and looked at his reflection. He went down to the kitchen. The coffee was ready. Mrs. Gable, the housekeeper, always arrived early. Good morning, Mr. Thompson. I made the coffee extra strong. You're going to need it. Thank you, Martha. Leo's staying with me today. You can go without worrying. I'll take good care of him. I know you will, thanks. At 7:30, he went to pick up Elena. She was waiting at her door, clutching her purse to her chest. When she got in the car, he looked at her and was speechless for a second. You look good. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. On the way to the courthouse, they were mostly silent. Until Grant said to Elena, yes, no matter what happens today, no matter what she says, I know the truth. I know who you are. Thank you. And you're not alone. I'll be there the whole time. Right by your side. She nodded, not trusting her own voice. They arrived at the courthouse at 8:30. The building was old, imposing, with columns out front and wide, worn marble steps. People were coming and going. Lawyers in suits, nervous-looking people, guards at the door. Eleanor had never been in a place like this. Her legs felt weak as she climbed the stairs. Stay close to me. Grant placed a hand on the small of her back, guiding her. It wasn't a romantic touch. It was protective. They went up to the 3rd floor. Dr. Sterling was waiting by the courtroom door, briefcase in hand. Ready? Ready, Grant answered. But then they saw her. Victoria was sitting on a bench in the hallway, an expensive grey suit, hair in a flawless bun, perfect makeup. And beside her, her lawyer, a tall man in glasses holding an expensive leather briefcase. When Victoria saw Grant and Elena together, she stood up. She looked Elena up and down, her disdain obvious. Here to put on a show? Grant stepped in front of Elena. Don't talk to her. Oh, are you her white knight now? Her lawyer intervened. Let's maintain some civility, Dr. Sterling agreed. Save the insults for the proceedings. Just then the courtroom door opened. A bailiff appeared, his voice monotone. Case 4728, Thompson versus Miller. The time had come. Everyone entered. The room was small, cold, and smelled of old paper and fear. A large table was in the center, with chairs on each side. At the far end was the judge's bench, still empty. Elena sat beside Grant. Her hands were shaking so much she had to clasp them together to hide it. Grant noticed. On impulse, he placed his hand over hers on the table. It's going to be okay. She looked down at their hands. She didn't pull away. She just took a deep breath, trying to believe him. A few minutes later, the judge entered. Judge Paul Stevens. A man in his 60s wearing reading glasses with a serious expression that revealed nothing. Good morning. You may be seated. He opened his file, took off his glasses, cleaned them with a cloth and put them back on. The movements were slow, calculated. Custody hearing for the minor Leo Thompson. Mr. Thompson. Grant stood up. Present, Your Honor. Ms. Miller. Victoria stood, her posture perfect. Present. The judge shuffled some papers. Mr. Thompson, you are requesting full custody based on neglect and abuse. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Do you have evidence? I have a medical report, a psychological evaluation, photographs, and an eyewitness. The judge looked at Victoria. Ma'am, do you have a response? This is all a setup by my ex-husband to take my son from me. The judge tapped his gavel lightly on the bench. Let's proceed with the testimonies. Call the first witness. The bailiff looked at his paper. Miss Elena Garcia. Elena stood up. Her legs felt weak. She walked to the front of the room as if in slow motion. She sat in the chair the bailiff indicated. The judge looked at her over his glasses. Miss Garcia, can you tell the court in your own words what you witnessed on March 15th of this year? Eleanor looked at Grant. He gave her an encouraging nod. She took a deep breath and began to speak. I was cleaning the 2nd floor hallway when I heard a scream. Elena's voice came out steadier than she expected. It was a child's scream. It was coming from Leo's room. The judge leaned forward. What kind of scream? Pain and fear. She closed her eyes for a second, reliving the moment. It wasn't a tantrum. It was terror. And what did you do? I ran. I opened the door without knocking. Eleanor looked directly at the judge now, just as Dr. Sterling had coached her, and I saw the nanny Susan Miller holding Leo by the arm. How was she holding him? Tightly, Your Honor. Her fingers were digging into his arm. You could see the pain on the boy's face. He was trying to pull away, crying, but she wouldn't let go. Victoria shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Her lawyer placed a hand on her arm, a silent warning. Please continue, the judge said. Then she raised her other hand to us. Eleanor paused, her throat tightening. And she pinched him hard. I saw the skin turn red instantly. Leo screamed. The silence in the room was absolute. What did you do? I told her to let him go immediately. Elena's voice grew stronger. She got angry. She said I wasn't in charge, that I should get out of the room. But I didn't leave. I pulled Leo behind me. How did the nanny react? She grabbed her purse and left. But before she did, she said I would regret it. that when his father got home, I would be fired. The judge jotted something down. And what did you do after that? I took pictures of the marks. There was a red mark from her fingers on his arm. But when I pushed up his sleeve, Eleanor took a deep breath. There were more. Purple bruises, some yellowing. Old marks. It wasn't the first time. Are you certain? I am, Your Honor. I grew up seeing violence. I know how to recognize the signs. The judge asked for the photos. Dr. Sterling handed him a folder. The judge opened it and analyzed each image in silence. His face grew more and more serious, his jaw tight. After a long few minutes, he looked back at Elena. Were these marks you saw only on his arm? No, Your Honor, they were on both arms. And when I helped him change his clothes later, I saw marks on his ribs too. Small round ones, pinches. The judge took off his glasses, rubbing his tired eyes. When he put them back on, he looked at Elena with a different expression. Did you speak with the boy? I did. I asked him if the nanny did this often. Eleanor felt her eyes sting. He said yes. He said she told him that if he told his father, his mother would go away forever. Victoria swallowed hard. You may be seated. Thank you. Eleanor returned to her seat. She was trembling. Grant whispered, You were perfect. Now it was Victoria's lawyer's turn. He stood up, adjusted his glasses, a calculated smile on his face. He was ready to play dirty. Miss Garcia, who do you work for? For Mr. Thompson. And how much does he pay you? Dr. Sterling shot to his feet. Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant. Your Honor, it is relevant. The lawyer spread his hands. It demonstrates that the witness has a financial interest in the outcome of this case. The judge thought for a moment. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Miss Garcia. Eleanor lifted her chin. He pays me a fair wage for my work. A fair wage or a wage far above the market rate? I work full-time. I take care of the house and his son. The salary is proportional. The lawyer took a confident step forward. Isn't it true that Mr. Thompson only hired you after you agreed to testify? No, Elena's voice was like steel. He hired me after his ex-wife caused me to lose my other jobs. The lawyer stopped. What do you mean? Ms. Miller called my other employers. She said I was a thief. It was all a lie. All to silence me, to punish me for protecting Leo. Elena leaned forward. That's why Mr. Thompson offered me a permanent job, so I wouldn't be left with nothing while I helped protect his son. The judge frowned. Ms. Miller, is this true? Victoria turned red. I had a right to warn people. Warn them about what? Something that didn't happen. Eleanor didn't let it go. Her voice rose, filled with real emotion. I have never stolen anything in my life, Your Honor. She made that up to hurt me, so I wouldn't be able to testify. But I'm here anyway. Her voice trembled, but it remained strong, because I saw what I saw, and I will not leave that boy unprotected. The silence that followed was as heavy as lead. The judge looked at Elena for a long moment. Then he nodded. You may be seated. Thank you for your testimony. Elena returned to her seat. Her hands were still shaking. Grant whispered, You were incredible. Dr. Evans, please. The pediatrician entered. White hair, a lab coat under his suit jacket, a medical file in his hand. Years of experience showed on his tired but trustworthy face. Doctor, did you examine the minor Leo Thompson? Yes, Your Honor, on March 16th. And what was your conclusion? The doctor opened his file, took out enlarged photos and placed them on the table. The minor presented with multiple lesions consistent with intentional physical assault. Can you explain further? These marks here, he pointed with a pen, are from forcible restraint. You can see the shape of the fingers marked on the skin. The pressure applied was significant. This does not happen from a normal touch or from playing. The judge leaned over to get a better look at the photos. And these other injuries, caused by pinching. Note the circular shape, the depth. They were intentional and repeated over time. Is it possible they were accidents? From children playing? Dr. Evans took off his glasses and looked directly at the judge. No, Your Honor. I have worked with children for 30 years. I know the difference between an accident and abuse. This was deliberate, continued and intentional assault. Did the minor present with other injuries? Yes, bruises in different stages of healing. The doctor held up another photo. This indicates that the abuse had been happening for at least 2 months, probably 3. Grant closed his eyes. 3 months, 90 days of his son's suffering in silence. The judge thanked the doctor. "You may be seated." Psychological evaluation from Dr. Wallace. Dr. Sterling stood up. "Your Honor, the psychologist was unable to attend today due to a health issue, but she sent her complete report. You may read the key points." The lawyer opened the document. His voice echoed in the room. Patient Leo Thompson, 5 years old. Observed symptoms: frequent nightmares, secondary nocturnal enuresis, excessive fear of authority figures, severe emotional repression, avoidance of physical contact. He paused. Conclusion: clear signs of trauma from physical and psychological abuse. Prognosis: favorable with appropriate therapy and removal of the aggressor. When the lawyer finished, the judge took off his glasses. He rubbed his tired eyes. He was visibly shaken. "Mr. Thompson, when did you realize something was wrong?" Grant stood up, his voice heavy with guilt. "Too late, Your Honor." "What do you mean?" "My son changed completely. He stopped smiling, started wetting the bed again, had nightmares every night." Grant took a deep breath. "And I thought it was trauma from the divorce. I never imagined someone was hurting him." "You didn't suspect the nanny?" "No. She was recommended by my ex-wife. She seemed trustworthy. His voice broke. "I trusted her." "And when did you discover the truth?" "When Elena called me. I saw the photos and I dropped everything. I was in a meeting, I had investors waiting, but none of it mattered. I came home, I saw my son." Grant stopped, his throat closing up. "I saw the marks. I talked to him. And I realized I had failed." "What did you do then?" "I fired the nanny immediately. I took my son to the doctor, to the psychologist. And I filed this lawsuit." He looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, I know I failed. I should have seen it sooner. But now all I want is to protect my son. That's all I want. A chance to get it right." The judge nodded. "You may be seated." Then he looked at Victoria. His expression had changed. It was no longer neutral. "Ms. Miller, did you check the nanny's references before recommending her?" Victoria hesitated. "She's family. That's not an answer. Did you check them or not?" "No." "Why not?" The silence dragged on. "Mom, I'm waiting for an answer." Victoria was sweating now, her perfect makeup starting to run, because I knew she was firm. "I didn't think I needed to check." The judge raised his eyebrows. "Firm? Are you calling assault firmness?" "It wasn't assault. It was discipline." Her lawyer tried to stop her, touching her arm urgently. "Ms. Miller, please," but she didn't stop. She was too nervous, too defensive. "My son is too sensitive. He cries about everything. He needed to learn to be stronger." Grant exploded, jumping up from his chair. "He is 5 years old." The gavel slammed down. "Order! Mr. Thompson, sit down." Grant sat trembling with contained rage. The judge looked at Victoria. His voice was as cold as ice. "Ma'am, let me see if I understand this. You hired a nanny you knew was aggressive to care for your 5-year-old son because you thought he needed to be stronger?" Victoria realized her mistake. Too late. "That's not how it was, Your Honor. That is exactly how it was. You just said so yourself." He leaned forward. "You knew the nanny was aggressive. You chose her anyway. And when you were confronted, you tried to destroy the witness who protected your son." Victoria opened her mouth. She closed it. There was nothing to say. The judge closed the file with a sharp snap. "I've seen enough. I will review the evidence and issue my ruling in 15 days. Until then, temporary custody remains with Mr. Thompson. This hearing is adjourned." The gavel struck. It sounded like thunder. In the courthouse corridor, Grant let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. His legs almost gave out. Dr. Sterling put a hand on his shoulder. "We did it. The official ruling is still to come. But yes, we did it." The judge was clearly on our side. Grant turned to Elena. She was leaning against the wall, still shaking with adrenaline. "You were incredible in there. I was terrified." "It didn't show," Dr. Sterling agreed. "Your testimony changed everything. The way you stood up to her lawyer, how you kept your cool. It was decisive." Elena smiled, exhausted. "I just want to go home and see Leo." That's when Victoria came out of the courtroom. Her lawyer was trying to calm her down, but she was out of control. She saw Grant and Elena and stormed towards them, her heels clicking loudly on the marble floor. You think you're so clever, don't you? I just protected my son. Protected him. Victoria let out a hysterical laugh. You humiliated me in there. You humiliated yourself. With your own words. Victoria pointed a finger at Elena, her hand shaking with rage. This is all her fault. She put these ideas in your head. She showed me the truth you hid. Victoria stepped forward, invading his personal space, her finger in his face. You think you're going to be happy with her? With the cleaner? Grant was speechless. So was Elena. Victoria laughed, but it was a bitter laugh, full of venom and envy. You think I didn't notice? The way you look at her. Pathetic. Victoria, you've lost your mind. Lost my mind. She looked from one to the other. You're trading the mother of your child for a maid. Elena stepped forward. Her voice was steady, fearless. I'm not trading anyone for anything. And Mr. Thompson isn't trading anything. I just did my job. I protected a child. Your job? Victoria spat the words. Your job was to clean the house, not destroy my family. Grant lost his patience. His voice boomed, echoing down the hall. You destroyed it when you hired that woman to beat our son. You destroyed it when you chose your pride over him. People in the corridor stopped to stare. Victoria's lawyer pulled her by the arm. Ms. Miller, let's go now. Victoria resisted for a second. She looked at Grant one last time. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged. You are going to regret this. I already do. I regret ever marrying you. The lawyer finally managed to lead her away. She stumbled away in her heels, her posture broken, her mask of perfection shattered. Grant leaned against the wall, exhausted. Will she appeal? Dr. Sterling shook his head. She can try. But after what happened in there, after she admitted she knew the nanny was aggressive, she doesn't stand a chance. And the case against Susan? That's already been filed. She'll face criminal charges for assault and child abuse. With the medical report and your testimony, he looked at Elena. She'll lose her license to work with children. She'll probably do time. Good. Dr. Sterling said his goodbyes and left. Grant and Elena stood there in the hallway alone in the crowd. Do you want to go home? Yes, I want to see Leo, to hug him. In the elevator, the two of them alone, Elena spoke quietly. What she said about you looking at me. Elena, don't listen to her. She was just angry. But she said it as if... Elena stopped, the words caught in her throat. As if what? She didn't finish the sentence. The elevator doors opened. They walked out in silence. In the car, Grant drove slower than usual. He was in no hurry. For the first time in weeks, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter. Do you think I look at you differently? The question slipped out before he could stop it. Elena looked out the window. I don't know. Sometimes I think so. But then I think it must be my imagination. What if it isn't? She turned to him. Their eyes met for a second before he had to look back at the road. Mr. Thompson, don't call me Grant, just Grant. I can't. Why not? Sadly, because you're my boss. And I don't want to confuse things. What if things are already confused? Elena didn't know how to respond. She was quiet for the rest of the drive, her heart beating so hard it hurt. When they got to the mansion, Leo was waiting at the door with Mrs. Gable. As soon as he saw his dad, he dropped his toy and ran. Dad! How did it go? Grant knelt, opening his arms. It went very well, champ. And Elena? Is she okay? I'm okay, sweetie. Elena knelt down too. Leo hugged them both at the same time, his small arms trying to reach around them. The three of them stood there at the door, wrapped in an embrace. And for the first time in a long time, they looked like a real family. 15 days later, on a Monday morning, Grant's phone rang. He was having coffee when he saw the name on the screen, Dr. Sterling. His heart leaped. Hello? The ruling is in. Grant closed his eyes. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. And you won. His legs felt weak. He had to sit down. Won how? Full custody, Grant, full. Victoria gets supervised visitation once a week. And there's more. What? The judge was harsh in his ruling. Very harsh. It states that she acted with gross negligence by recommending a nanny she knew was aggressive. That will be on her permanent record. If she ever tries to revise custody in the future, that document will weigh heavily against her. And Susan, she's been indicted. Criminal proceedings for assault and child abuse. She lost all licenses to work with children. She'll never get another job in the field. Ever. Grant felt a bitter satisfaction rise in his chest. Justice. Finally. Congratulations, Grant, you protected your son. He hung up and stood still for a moment. He looked out the window. The sun was shining. A beautiful day. A day of victory. He went to find Leo. The boy was in his room, lying on the floor, drawing. Ever since Elena had started drawing with him again, Leo never stopped. The floor was covered with papers, sons, houses, families holding hands. Leo, come here. Dad needs to tell you something. The boy looked up. He saw the expression on his father's face and grew serious. Did something happen? Yes, something good. Grant sat on the bed and pulled his son onto his lap. You're going to live here with me forever. Leo's eyes widened. Forever and ever. Forever. The judge decided. This is your home. What about Mommy? You'll see her once a week, but always with someone there to make sure you're safe. Leo was quiet, processing. Susan's never coming back. Never. She can't work with any children anymore. What she did was a crime. Leo hugged his father. He started to cry, not from sadness, but from relief, from security, from knowing he was finally protected. Grant held him tightly, his own throat tight with emotion. After a while, Leo pulled away. He wiped his face with his sleeve. And Elena? Is she going to stay here? So she works here, son. But she's not leaving, right? Because now that you won... Leo hesitated. I don't want her to leave. I don't either, champ. I don't either. Leo looked at his father with that strange wisdom that children sometimes have. You like her, don't you, Dad? Grant was speechless. What do you mean? You like Elena, the way you used to like Mommy. Son, it's okay. I really like her too. Grant didn't know what to say. So he just hugged his son again, his heart full of things he couldn't put into words. He went downstairs to tell Elena. He found her in the kitchen making lunch. Her back was to him, chopping vegetables, humming softly, something she only did when she was happy. Elena. She spun around, the knife still in her hand. Mr. Thompson. Oh, you scared me. Sorry. He stood in the doorway, just looking at her. Her hair was in a ponytail, an apron tied around her waist, her bare feet on the cool kitchen floor. She was so beautiful, and she didn't even know it. The ruling came in. The knife clattered onto the cutting board. And I won. For a second, she was frozen. Then a smile broke out, huge, lighting up her entire face, reaching her eyes. You really won? Full custody. They're full. Leo stays with me. She only gets supervised visitation. Eleanor ran. She didn't think. She just ran and hugged him. It was pure impulse. Grant was surprised for a second, then he hugged her back. He wrapped his arms around her and held on. He smelled soap and apple shampoo. He felt her body trembling against his. That's so good. That's so good, Grant. She was crying. He deserves it. Leo deserves this. She had called him Grant, just Grant. It was the first time. They stayed like that for longer than they should have. Until Elena realized where she was, what she was doing, and pulled away awkwardly. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have... No, it's okay. I was happy too. They stood there looking at each other. There was something in the air, something different, something that had been growing for weeks and was now about to explode between them. Grant took a step forward. Elena, his voice was low, hoarse, filled with everything he couldn't say. Yes? There's something I need to tell you. Her heart started racing. She knew. Somehow she knew what was coming. Tell me. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. These last few weeks, being with you, seeing you with Leo, I realized that... At that moment, the kitchen door flew open. Leo ran in with a drawing in his hand, his voice excited. Helena, look what I made. The moment shattered like glass. Grant stepped back. Elena turned to the boy, trying to hide the fact that she was shaking. What is it, sweetie? I drew us, look. He held up the paper proudly. Yumi and Dad. 3 people holding hands. A tall man, a woman, a child in the middle, all of them smiling. It's beautiful, Leo. I'll put it on the fridge. The boy ran off again, happy. Grant and Elena stood there. The silence returned, but now it was uncomfortable, heavy with unspoken things. You were going to say something? He ran a hand through his hair, nervous. Yeah, I was, but maybe now's not the time. Why not? Because the ruling just came out. There's a lot going on, and I don't want you to feel pressured. Pressured how? Elena took a step forward. Her heart was beating so hard she was sure he could hear it. Grant looked at her brown eyes, at her slightly parted lips, at the way she was looking at him, as if she was waiting, begging him to be brave. And he almost said it. He almost said everything, but he was afraid of ruining what they had, afraid she would say no, afraid of losing her. Nothing. Forget it. Grant, I just wanted to thank you for everything, for saving my son, for staying, for being you. It wasn't what he wanted to say, but it was all he could manage. Eleanor felt a pang of disappointment, but she hid it with a smile. You're welcome. I just did what I had to do. You always say that. They stood there looking at each other. There was so much unsaid between them that the air was heavy, charged, almost suffocating. Grant slowly raised his hand. He touched her face lightly, just her cheek. A soft, almost reverent touch. Elena closed her eyes. She leaned her face into his hand. For a second, the world stopped. Then Grant's phone rang. Loud, shrill, shattering the moment. They pulled apart. Quickly, as if they'd been burned. Grant answered, dazed. It was his business partner, talking about an emergency at work. Okay, I'll handle it. Leave it with me. He hung up and looked at Elena. I have to deal with something for work. It's okay, we can talk later. We'll talk. He left the kitchen. He stopped at the door. He turned. Eleanor, yes? Never mind. We'll talk later. And he left. Elena stood there alone in the kitchen. She leaned against the sink, her legs weak, her heart still racing, the skin on her face still warm where he had touched it. That night, after Leo was asleep, Grant sat in his office, staring at papers without reading them, just thinking about the touch, the almost kiss, about everything he hadn't said. Elena sat in the living room, folding laundry that was already folded, waiting, listening to every sound in the house, waiting for footsteps that never came. They both stayed there, separated by a floor and all the unsaid words, because sometimes the hardest part isn't saying what you feel, it's having the courage to risk everything for what could be. The next morning, Grant woke up early. He had slept poorly, the entire night replaying that moment in the kitchen, regretting his lack of courage. He went downstairs. Eleanor was already there making coffee, as always. But there was something different in the air, a tension that wasn't there before. Good morning. Good morning. Grant sat at the table. He took a deep breath. He decided he wasn't going to waste another chance. We need to talk. She stopped stirring her sugar. About yesterday? About everything. He stood up. He walked over to her. His heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I can't pretend I'm not feeling anything anymore. Elena slowly placed the spoon in the sink. She turned to him. Feeling what? I've fallen in love with you. The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. I know it's complicated, he continued, the words tumbling out now. There's Leo, there's the job, there's everything. But I can't ignore it anymore. I can't pretend you're just my employee. That I don't think about you all the time. That I don't... Grant, let me finish, please. He took a deep breath. You're my boss. I work for you. It's too complicated. Then quit. She blinked. What? I don't want you to be my employee anymore. I want to try something real with you, without this barrier between us. And if it doesn't work out, it won't. But what about Leo? Leo loves you. He asks every day if you're going to stay. He already sees you as part of the family. Grant took a step closer. And so do I. Elena looked at him. At the way he was looking at her, with fear, with hope, with something that looked a lot like love. I've fallen in love with you too. It was the first time she'd said it out loud. The words came out shaky but true. Grant smiled. A huge, relieved, almost disbelieving smile. Really? Really? For a while now, I was afraid of messing everything up. So we try. But on one condition. What is it? I stop working here. I'm either your employee or I'm something else. But not both. I can't mix them. Deal. Grant was already grabbing his phone. I'm calling Dr. Sterling right now. We'll terminate the contract today. Wait, now? Now because I don't want to wait another second. He called right then and there in front of her. Dr. Sterling? I need to terminate an employment contract. Elena's. No, there's no problem at all. She's going to be staying here in a different capacity. When he hung up, he looked at Elena. Done, we'll sort out the legal side tomorrow. But as of now, he took a step closer. You no longer work for me. They stood there looking at each other. The kitchen was filled with morning light. The smell of coffee was in the air. It was the perfect moment. Grant leaned in slowly, giving her time to back away if she wanted to. She didn't. The kiss was gentle at first, careful, almost shy. Then it became more intense. Months of tension, weeks of waiting, all poured into that one kiss. When they pulled apart, they both had tears in their eyes. I love you, Grant whispered. I love you too. In the days that followed, they had to tell everyone. First, they told Leo, who was drawing in his room when they walked in together. Leo, we need to tell you something. The boy looked up at them. He saw their joined hands, and he smiled. Are you guys dating? Grant blinked in surprise. How did you know? I'm not stupid, Dad. You guys stare at each other all the time. Eleanor laughed. And you? You're okay with that? Leo dropped his colored pencil and ran to hug them both. I'm very okay. Does this mean Elena gets to stay forever? I do, if you want me to. I really want you to. Next, it was time to tell Maria and Lena. They went over on Sunday, holding hands this time. Eleanor's mother opened the door, saw the two of them, and smiled before they even said a word. Mom, Grant and I already knew, sweetie. A mother knows these things. Lena came running out. I knew it. I told you he looked at you differently. It was a Sunday of laughter, coffee, and plans for the future, but not everything was perfect. The next day, Elena arrived at the gym where she worked as a personal trainer for a client, her last remaining job. Carla met her at the door with a strange expression. Elena, management asked me to tell you. Her stomach sank. She called here too. Your boss's ex-wife. She called. Said a lot of things. Carla hesitated, but I told management I've known you for 3 years, that you're a professional, that I don't believe a word she said. Elena felt her eyes sting. Thank you. Your job is safe here. But she's telling everyone. Be careful. When Elena told Grant, he was furious. She won't stop. Even after losing. What do? We document everything. And if she continues, we sue her for defamation. Dr. Sterling agreed. It's harassment and continued retaliation. We have a strong case. They sent a formal notice to Victoria through her lawyer. Stop immediately or face a lawsuit for defamation and harassment. The calls stopped. 3 months later, on a sunny Saturday, Elena and Grant decided to make things official in another way. They were in the mansion's garden. Leo was playing nearby, blowing soap bubbles that floated in the air like dreams. Elena. Grant stopped. He got serious. He took her hand. What's wrong? It's been 5 months since you came into my life. 5 months since everything changed. You saved my son. You saved me too. He took a deep breath. And I don't just want to date you. I don't just want to live with you. I want to build a life, a family, a future. And then he got down on one knee. Elena brought a hand to her mouth, her eyes widening. Grant took a small box out of his pocket. Elena Garcia, will you marry me? She stood frozen. The tears came before the words. Then in an emotional whisper, yes, I'll marry you. Grant slipped the ring onto her finger. It was simple, delicate, perfect. His hands were shaking. Leo came running out of the house. Did she say yes? She said yes. The three of them hugged in the garden, laughing and crying at the same time. But the news reached Victoria all too quickly. The following Tuesday was a supervised visitation day. She arrived 15 minutes early, determined to cause a scene. She rang the doorbell forcefully. Grant opened it. You're early. The visitation is at the center. I know, she pushed past him. But I wanted to talk to you first. That's when she saw Elena coming down the stairs, in a robe, her hair wet, like someone who lived there. And then she saw the ring. Is that an engagement ring? Grant stood in front of Elena. It is. Victoria looked from one to the other, the reality hitting her like a punch. You're getting married. We are. She let out a hysterical, bitter laugh. You're marrying the maid? Großgarten, she's not the maid. She's my fiancée, and you will not speak to her like that in my house. Elena stepped forward, her voice calm. You can say whatever you want. I don't care anymore. You destroyed my family. No, Elena answered firmly. You destroyed it all by yourself when you chose your pride over your son. Grant pointed to the door. Leo is ready. We're leaving for the visitation now. You'll go in your car. We'll go in ours. Victoria was trembling with rage, but there was nothing she could do. She left. At the visitation center, Leo barely looked at her. He just drew, answering her questions with one-word answers. When the time was up, he ran to his father's car without a backward glance. Victoria watched from the window. She saw Grant and Elena in the car with Leo between them, laughing, happy, a family. And she finally understood that she had lost. Forever. 6 months later, on a sunny Saturday in December, Elena and Grant were married. It was a small ceremony in the mansion's garden. Just family and their closest friends. White flowers were everywhere, their sweet scent in the air, soft music playing. Maria cried from beginning to end, holding Lena's hand. Dr. Sterling was there, smiling proudly. Even Mrs. Gable had received a special invitation. Leo was the ring bearer, carrying the rings on a small satin pillow. His chest was puffed out with pride, his new suit perfectly fitted. Elena was beautiful. A simple, elegant white dress. Her hair was down, falling over her shoulders. She held a bouquet of wildflowers. When the justice of the peace asked if they took each other, they both answered at the same time, their voices firm. I do. And they kissed under everyone's applause. At the reception, the music played softly. People laughed, danced, and celebrated. Leo tugged on Elena's dress. She knelt down to his level. Can I call you Mom now? Elena felt her throat tighten. Her eyes filled with tears. You can if you want to. I want to. And she hugged him tightly, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. Grant watched from a distance. His wife, his son, the family they had built together after so much struggle, so much fear, so much pain. It was worth it. Every second, every tear, every difficult moment, because now they were a real family. And nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to tear them apart. 2 years later, Leo was 7. He was in the 2nd grade, getting good grades and had plenty of friends. The nightmares had stopped completely. He no longer wet the bed. He smiled easily and laughed loudly. His therapy with Dr. Wallace had continued for a year and a half. Then she herself said, he's healed. He has overcome the trauma. You can stop. The visitations with Victoria continued, but Leo went out of obligation, not desire. She never apologized. She never admitted she was wrong. And Leo, even as a child, could see it. One day, coming back from a visit, he said in the car, Dad, when I turn 18, I don't have to go there anymore, right? You don't? Okay, good. I go until then because the judge said so. But when I grow up, I get to choose. And Grant knew his son had learned something important, that family isn't about blood. It's about who stays, who protects you, who truly loves you. Susan Miller was sentenced to 2 years in a minimum security prison for assault and child abuse. She lost the right to work with children forever. Her name was added to registries of individuals with violent histories. When she got out of prison, no one would hire her. Victoria had cut all contact. Her family had turned their backs on her. She ended up working as a cleaner in an office building. At night, alone. Sometimes she thought about Leo, about what she had done, but she never felt true remorse, only anger at having been caught. Victoria moved to another city. She couldn't stand the stares at the country club, the gossip, the social isolation. She tried to rebuild her life, but the stain on her reputation was permanent. Every time she tried to make a new friend, someone would find out the story and pull away. She visited Leo once a month now. He had asked to reduce the visits, and the judge had agreed. But the meetings were always tense, always sad. One day she asked him, "Do you forgive me, Leo?" He thought for a long moment. He was 9 now, more mature than many adults. "I don't know, Mom, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm just sad for what could have been and wasn't." It was the most honest answer she had ever received, and the most devastating. Elena and Grant had a daughter, Sophia. She was born 3 years after the wedding, with her mother's eyes and her father's smile. Leo was the perfect older brother, protective, loving, always showing his baby sister his drawings. The mansion that was once empty and silent was now filled with life. Laughter, music, the mess of scattered toys, colorful drawings taped to the refrigerator. Maria moved into the guest house out back. She helped take care of her grandchildren, finally able to rest after struggling for so long. Lena went to nursing school on a scholarship Grant helped arrange. She graduated at the top of her class. The family thrived, they grew, they healed. One evening, 10 years after the day that changed everything, Eleanor and Grant were on the porch. The children were asleep, the house finally quiet. "Do you have any regrets?" she asked suddenly. "About what?" "Everything. The lawsuit. Falling in love with the maid." She smiled as she said it. Grant pulled her closer. "No, not for a second. You saved my life. You saved Leo's life. You gave us a real family. I don't have any regrets either, even though it was hard, even though I lost jobs, even though I was scared." She rested her head on his shoulder. "It was all worth it. You know what I think about sometimes?" "What?" "What if you hadn't been brave that day? What if you had just closed the door and pretended you didn't see?" "But I didn't." "No, you didn't. And that changed everything." They sat there, looking at the stars, thinking about all they had been through and all they had built. And they knew they had done the right thing. That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when everything is against you. It's not closing the blinds when someone needs help. It's choosing to protect, even if it costs you everything. Because in the end, what matters isn't money or social status, or what other people think. What matters is looking in the mirror and knowing you did the right thing, and being able to sleep peacefully at night.